Hi, in this session I'm going to show you how to create a comparison table using Harvey Balls. Now Harvey Balls are a ideogram or icons that are used for visual communications. It was created by somebody named Harvey Ball, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, hopefully. And he's been credited with inventing the Harvey Balls when he was working for Booz Allen Hamilton as a consultant back in the 70s. Now the Harvey Balls, you probably have seen some of this in magazines or in newspapers where they are looking at a percentage of completion with some items. So in this example, we have a degree of completion 0 to 100%, and there's 5 different stages of the Harvey Balls. And it really looks like a pie chart. You've got a circle with the empty pie, then you've got at 25%, you've got a quarter of that pie filled out, half of the pie at 50%, 3/4 at 75%, and 100% we have the full pie filled out. And this top table here is done with conditional formatting. And this bottom table here, it's also doing the same thing, but with a different font. It's not using it with conditional formatting. So I'll show you how to create both, but let me go into sheet 2 here to kind of describe some of the limitations of one of the ways. Now, I have a table here that's looking at different tasks, and it's got a column here that's looking at the percentage of completion. And column C's got Harvey Balls that is using conditional formatting, and column D is using the font Arial Unicode. Now with conditional formatting, that's actually pretty easy to implement, but there are some limitations with conditional formatting. As you can already see here, we're looking at 25% here as the lower range and 100% as the upper range. But looking at this circle, you'll notice that it's a white circle. And if we really think about the white circle and the different stages here, this really should reflect 0%. So the reason why it's reflecting 25% for that white circle is because with the conditional formatting, what Excel is doing is looking at the lowest of that range and the highest of that range and trying to guesstimate the Harvey Ball, the correct Harvey Ball for that. Now if we had this at 0%, you'll see that it's done it correctly and it's reflected here. 0%, it's got the white ball, nothing in there. 50%, half of it is shaded. 75%, 3/4, 100%, the fully shaded, and 25% here is a quarter shaded. Now if I went back to 25%, you can see now where it's taking that as the first phase of the Harvey Ball, and the last phase is 100%, which is black circle here. So that's one of the limitations of conditional formatting. The way that it's going to use it is it's going to base off of the lowest range that it's got in a set here. Now, the other thing that you can't do with conditional formatting on the Harvey Ball is you can't change the color. So with the Unicode, you can actually change the color here. Maybe you can change it to, if you don't like black, you can change it to blue. But with the conditional formatting, if I go into conditional formatting, I haven't found a way. If I go to manage our rules, which is here, I haven't found a way where you can actually change the colors for the Harvey Balls. Now you can't do it there. Let me close that. And you can't really do the same thing here. You can't change the icon. You can change the background, but that's only going to change the background, but the Harvey Balls will still be black and white. Let me go ahead and change this back. No fill, and we'll just go automatic. So let me show you how to do it with the conditional formatting. There's still some pros and cons with this. This is pretty easy to implement, and I'll show you later on how to do the Unicode, which is takes a little bit more steps, but you have a little more variety in this particular implementation. So let me go ahead and copy over these 2 rows. Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste, and let me also bring over the headings here. Control C to copy, and then Control C to paste. So with conditional formatting, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to bring over this data. And I can do that with just an equal sign. I want to have this cell equal that cell. And basically, it's just going to mirror that cell. And I'm going to go ahead and double click the fill handle here to bring it down. Oops. Double click the fill handle and to bring it down. Now with this range of cells selected, it's already selected here, I'll just go into the styles group and go into conditional formatting, and I've got these icon sets. And I'm just going to go ahead and select this one. And this is the Harvey Balls. So you can see it right there. Now, if you're willing to keep the icon set and the percentages, that's okay. But since you already have the percentages here, we should just make the icon sets, the Harvey balls, visible here. What we can do with that is go back under Conditional Formatting, go under Manage Rules, and let me go and bring this over here. We have this selected, the icon set, go under Edit Rule, and then we want to click this particular checkbox, Show the Icon Only. Now, once we click OK, and click OK, you'll see that the percentages have disappeared. They're still there, but they're just not displayed. Now, what we also can do is center this, so I'll just go ahead and center that, and we have our Harvey balls there. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, it's taking off, the Harvey balls are taken from this range, and so since 25% is the lower range, it'll show you this particular item where 25% would equal the white or blank circle, and then you've got 100%, which is correct, the black circle. But then really when you think 25%, it should be this quarter. So if you change this to 0, you'll notice that it did it correctly. You have the white circle is 0%, 25% is this quarter slice. So that's one way to do it with conditional formatting. And here's another way to do it with the arrow Unicode. So what happens here is we need to bring over the Unicode characters. So what I need to do is actually create another table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this part of the table first, and then I'm going to put the icon sets there. So I'm going to do Control C to copy, and then a Control V to paste. That's degree. Let me go ahead and bring over the other label here. Control C to copy, and then Control C to paste. Let me go and double click that to spread it out, and also format this a little bit with the borders to make it look a little nicer. All right. Okay, so with the Harvey balls, what we need to do is actually, we're going to have to use a particular font set that has Unicode characters. And the one that I'm going to be using is Arial. So what I need to do is make sure that these group of cells, whoops, just the Harvey Ball row, is formatted with the right font. And that's going to be Arial, Unicode MS. So there's only a couple of fonts here that have a Unicode formatting on it, and Arial is one of them. So let me go ahead and click that. And you would think that, after I did that, I could try to find those particular ideograms, but they're not there. So what I need to do is go into the character map and find those ideograms. So where do you find this character map? Well, what you need to do is go into the Start menu and type character map. This is going to bring up the programs. Under the programs, you'll see character map, and go ahead and click that, and you will see a character map window open. And we want to choose the Arial Unicode. Let me go ahead and find it here. Arial code Unicode MS. Now when that is available, what I want to do is I want to look for those different Harvey balls. So they're quite a ways down. They're probably like about 5 scroll clicks down, 4, 5, or more. Quite a ways down here. Let's see. Here we go. So it was a little bit more than 5, probably a good 10. And you can see that they're located right here. So what I want to do is I want to bring this one down. This is the white circle. I'm going to do it in order. So I'm going to double click that. So now it's selected. I want to bring the quarter one down next. This one. Double click that. Bring the half one down. Double click that. And the 3/4 one. And then the black circle down. So once I have those there, I'm going to go ahead and click copy. And I'm going to go over here into an empty cell here, and then Control V to paste. Now I've got all those icon sets there. Next, I need to bring those over in these different cells here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it here in the formula bar. I'm just going to cut and paste now. Control X to cut and put it here. Control V to paste, and select that one carefully. Control X to cut, and then select that. Control V to paste. I'm going to select that one. Control X, Control V, and then select this one, Control X, and then Control V, and then select this one, Control X, and then Control V. So now I have the Harvey balls here. You notice that they're quite small and not centered, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that and maybe bring up the font size a little bit bigger, make it 24, and then center these. Let's just go ahead and click center. And so now we have our Harvey balls. So how will I know that with 0%, 50%, 75%, it will bring those in? It's going to be a bunch of if-then statements or if statements. Now, there's one thing to keep in mind with creating this particular type of table is we need to have our conditions where you can only select 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. That just makes it cleaner, much easier to implement. If you've got something like 33%, well, when you really think about it, 33% doesn't really equal any of these Harvey balls. It'll have to be one of these 5 settings, either 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100. So it's going to be a bunch of if-then statements to look at that. So I would have to go in and, with these already set here, this is basically data validation right here that's looking at these. I'll show you how to do that at the end. But with this, I have to create a bunch of if statements to reflect if it is 0%, bring back this. If it's 25%, bring back that. If it's 50%, bring back that. If it's 75, bring back that. And if it's not 70%, then it's going to be 100%. So to write that, let me go here and just type in equal, and I put if, and then I'll just tab it to have that open parentheses. Now I'm going to say if this particular cell equals, I'm just going to go ahead and reflect that. If it equals 0%, and I'm going to press the F4 key to lock it into, oops, let me go ahead and press the F4 key here. Now what the F4 does is it puts $ in front of the letter and number. So when I copy it down, you'll see that this B2 becomes B3, B4, B5, but this particular number stays always looking at that cell. You'll see how it happens when I copy it down later. So I'm going to say if that equals that, if that's true, then bring back this. Bring back that cell. I'm going to press F4 to lock that in. Now, comma. Now, if it's false, it's got to be another if statement. So it's going to be if the same thing, if B2 equals this now, if it equals the next one, and then F4, and lock that in with the $. If it equals 25%, I want to bring back this, and then I have to F4 this to lock that too. And it just continues on. So if that's false, press the comma, you see the false of the condition is highlighted in bold. If that's false, then it's going to be another if statement. And tab. So if again B2, if that equals J1, F4, then bring back this one. Click this, F4 to lock that in. Now, if that's true, bring back that. But if it's false, I put the comma in. Now it goes to if it's false, it's another if statement. Tab. If B2 equals 75%, and I press F4, then bring back this bottom one here, and F4 again. And if it's false, then another if statement. So in this case, I can reflect it. If I can just say if it's false, then it's obviously going to be 100% because I'm going to constrain the choices here either from 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100%. So I can just click here and then go ahead and press the F4 key and then close parentheses. Let's see, I have to close it a couple times. And I think this is the correct one. You'll notice that Excel is pretty nice in terms of letting you know how many parentheses that you need to add in there, closing parentheses, by using colors. So we see here, green kind of is over here, and then black is the last one over here. So you notice that Excel kind of gives you some hints. If I press return, it's going to bring back this one. So now it brought back that one. You'll notice that it brought back it as a smaller size what I'm going to need to do is make sure that these range of cells are also set to Arial Unicode MS and also set to the font size, the correct font size. And maybe I'll center it while I'm at there. So as I mentioned before, we had these dollar signs to show it's the absolute cell reference. And what that means is when you copy it down or you copy it to other cells, the reference to that cell stays the same. But you see there's no dollar signs in front of B2 here. So if I double click to bring this down, you'll notice that in the next one it'll go to B3, this will be B4, this will be B5, etc. B6. So let me go ahead and double click that. And you'll notice when I go into this cell, D3, you notice that it did change B3. This one changed to B4, this one changed to B5. So what it does is Excel's pretty smart. It reflects the changes as you copy a formula down. It will reflect the changes to the next cell. So now I've created the Harvey Balls using the Arial Unicode font. So the reason why that it can reference it correctly is because I've got this data validation feature here. Now 50% it shows a half shaded, but it doesn't really reflect it here now because 50% is the minimum and 100% is the maximum. So you see that there's some limitations in conditional formatting, but with the font formatting, it's done it correctly because it's referencing that now. So how we can create the data validation here is, let me go ahead and just undo the data validation feature. Let me go ahead and get rid of that and show you how it's done. So we go under data and then under data validation. Let me go and click data validation and click clear all. All right. So now you see that there's no data validation. So if I put 33%, it'll reflect it here, but it gets messed up here. So with data validation, what I need to do is select this range of cells, go under data validation, click data validation, and under data validation here, I want to have a list. So this list is going to start out with 0%, and then 0.25, and then 0.5, then 0.75, oops, 0.75, and then comma 1. So these are the 5 ranges. Click OK. All right, and then also make sure that these cell ranges are percentage. So this is selected here. It's already had it selected before. If I had to put general, it's going to put it in decimal. Either way, it will work if it's either decimal or percentage, but I like to have it in percentage. Makes it look a little bit nicer. And now, originally it was 33%, but once I change it, once I select the drop down here, you'll see that that's not a choice. It's 5%, and if I put 33%, it's not going to work. It's going to say there's some restricted values. And why it does that? It does that because if we look into the data validation, let me go and select this again. If I go into data validation here, there's these input messages. So it shows an error if the invalid data is entered. So we're only citing it for these particular list of values. So if someone tries to enter anything different from that, it's going to give this error, or it'll give an error basically. You can also customize the message of the error. So even though we had 33% selected earlier, I can't enter it in now because I've got data validation turned on. So you can only select these different values, and it's going to reflect it correctly here. Now that I've got, let me set one of these to 0%. Now it does it correctly for the conditional formatting, but Unicode, it doesn't really matter because basically it's looking at these particular areas here. So that's one of the caveats when you create these Harvey Balls, is probably with the completion percentages. If you're doing something like this, you probably want to kind of limit the range of values or the range of selections that a user can pick, probably 5 when you really think about it, to correctly represent the Harvey Balls. And as I mentioned before, with the Unicode, you can, let me select that, you can have different font colors if you don't like black. You can do red, you can do yellow, or you can do green. So that's one of the nicer features about using the font instead of the conditional formatting, is that you can change the colors of the Harvey Balls. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.